welcome back to Riding the Pine. This is our review of Game 52 of the 2020-21 Chicago Blackhawks season. Tonight, the Blackhawks fell to the top team in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes, by a score of 5-2. But before we get to the review, if you could do me a really big favor, hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Helps us out with YouTube's algorithm quite a bit. Also, hit that notifications bell so you will know when we upload. We will have to come looking for you. You don't have to come looking for us. And you will get a ping notification every time we upload our content. Also, we've had some people recently finally commenting down below. We'd love to see that. So please leave your comments down below. Anything that you have to say, whether it be negative or positive, about the team or about me or Joe or anything that we might say here on this show, please chime in. We would be happy to engage with you. And with that, I will bring in Chai Sports fan Joe, making his triumphant return to the show tonight. Joe, the Hawks are who we thought they were and lost again.
Yeah, and and unfortunately, this loss, as everybody knows, now officially eliminates them from the postseason. Now this is, if you want to call it 3 out of the last 4 years, really, it is 4 years in my eyes. Obviously, the Hawks made the playoffs last year thanks to the pause and the COVID rules that went into effect, but I mean, this is 4 years now that this team is going to miss out on the postseason, and it's kind of like I feel like this team is just stuck in purgatory. Like we're not able to make the moves that we need to make to kind of become a cup contender again, at least not for a while, but hopefully something can be done at least, to show more progress next year. I mean, I know the Hawks can easily be a playoff team, and once you can get into the playoffs, anything can happen, but realistically, I think Kyle, me and and as well as most of the Hawks fans out there know that this team's, I think, a little bit of a ways from being a true cup contender again.
Yeah, and I look like we've talked about, and I've talked about in the last two shows, about kind of being forward looking and about what we want to see. And you know, one thing I'd like to really see them do, because we've talked to people in the Blackhawks community, and then on the show, obviously, and um, I just feel like they haven't fully embraced like not necessarily a rebuild, but even a retool. Like, because we brought in Yanmark, we brought in Soderberg, we brought in Carpenter a couple years ago, and he's still here. We got a lot of these guys who are vets who are basically trade chips, which I understand, but you need to start playing your youth. And look at Calvin DeHorrible, as I've so eloquently named him this season. He's been pretty bad. And just because of his contract and that he's a vet, like they've refused to scratch him in favor of one of the kids. And to me, that's poor management. Like you're hurting your development of your players. Like we didn't I don't did I bitch virtually every game I think to start the year about Wyatt Kalynuk? I'm pretty sure I did. And then they
Yeah.
finally started playing him and oh my god, he's like their best defenseman offensively and he's playing almost 20 minutes a game now. And I think this is only like his 15th or 16th game. Like where was he at the beginning of the year? Like I don't think what was his first game in March?
I
Like
think so. Yeah.
yeah, like you went almost a month and a half before even playing him. It's just craziness to me. Even more than a month and a half because the season started the 9th of January.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically a month and 3 weeks before they played him. And like I don't know. Like I'm just I want them and maybe Joe and I and some other people are a little bit more invested and paying attention to the future 2022 draft. but it is a stacked draft. Like the top 15 picks are all going to be at least within 2 years of that draft, whether it's, immediately following in the beginning season or the following year, are probably all going to be in the NHL and be impact players eventually. So, if the Hawks can get in and get several picks in that draft, that's to their benefit. And look, I'm a huge Zadorov fan, but I've kind of come around on whether he should stay or not. Uh, I think he's got to go. I think Dahan's got to go, and I think Zadorov's got to go. Or if you really want to get bold, I guess Murphy. But you got to get rid of 2 defensemen this offseason because you've got all of these defensive prospects that aren't even here yet, not all of them, and they have nowhere to play. And you don't want, I know Joe was in the Barstool Chiefs. What was it like? What is on Twitter? What's it
It's like a
called?
space, I think they call it. They just call it
Yeah,
space.
and like everyone was talking apparently about like Phil Deneau and Teuvo Teravainen and Panarin, and I guess in the case of Panarin, he's kind of an outlier. But with Deneau and Teravainen, they were kind of like throw-ins to like the trades to make the trades happen. And Deneau was, I think he only played like 20 games maybe, and was kind of a third line guy, and he hadn't really become anything yet. Teravainen obviously had the really good first year with the Hawks, then fell off the face of the earth, and then they threw him in to get rid of Bickle's contract, and now he's a star. You don't want that to happen with all of these defensive prospects. Now, obviously, we can all come back to Stan Bowman. Part of the reason the team's where it is because he spent all of his draft capital on defense. That's why they have so many defensive prospects, because they used all of these picks on defenders. And I guess good on them that they all look pretty good. So they scouted well. But now you have no offensive players coming up other than Doc and potentially Reichel, who was last year's first round pick, and then maybe whoever they take this year. Um, but they've got to start recouping, and we've talked about it too. At the trade deadline this year, they added Adam Gaudette, they added Vinny Hinostroza, they added Henrik Borgstrom, Brett Connolly, all of these depth, as of right now anyway, depth forwards. They don't need depth forwards. They need top 6 elite talent. That, when you look at the difference, somebody tweeted out tonight the difference between the Blackhawks and the Hurricanes. The Blackhawks have 3 players with 30 points: Kane, Debrincat, and Kubalik. And Kubalik's barely above 30. I think and 2 of his points came tonight. So he had 31 points entering the game. So he was barely above that threshold. Carolina has 7. That's the difference. And I think Hagel is one of those guys. I think Doc will be one of those guys. Doc obviously has barely played this year. So those are 2 guys. So that would make the Hawks have 5. You add Jonathan Taves, that's 6. You're still missing that 7th guy. Maybe that's Lucas Reichel. Maybe that's Alex Nylander. Maybe it's a Max Shalunov or this Demir Zverev or whatever the hell his name is. Just call him Demir. Whoever it is they bring in, maybe it's whoever they draft this year. I don't know. But they've got to add something. And maybe it's Dylan Strome, but Dylan Strome's not playing that well. He picked up a point tonight. That's cool. But I think Pat Foley said he's got 7 points in 24 games. That's unacceptable. He's supposed to be a big part of your future, and he's not playing like it. And yes, he's had injuries, but at some point, you got to start making decisions on some of these players. And I think to me, it's time to go full like youth. I don't want to see Carpenter next year. I don't want to see Connolly next year. Like, I want to see the kids play. That means Lucas Reichel, assuming that he comes over, a Borgstrom, if he comes over, which I think all signs point to he is. I want to see Alex Nylander, and I don't want to see Alex Nylander in the bottom six. If you're just going to put him in the bottom six or you're going to send him to Rockford, just trade him. Just get rid of him. If you're not going to give him a chance to play with skilled players, then just stop. Like, end it. Like, and here's the thing. And I was talking to Joe about this before we jumped on. Kirby Dach has played in 81 games. He has 33 points as of tonight. So that's basically a full season. For those that may not pay attention, a full season is 82 games. Alex Nylander has played in 84 games and has 31 points. They're basically identical. And you can even throw in puck luck to why one or, however the points have shaken out. But they're basically identical. So everybody that wants to like throw Alex Nylander to Seattle, and that's the thing. If you don't protect Nylander, why wouldn't Seattle take him? He's got a family pedigree. We just said it. He's got the same stats, basically, as the third overall pick from the draft 2 years ago. And he's only 22 years old. Who else on the Hawks are you going to pick? You going to pick David Kampf? You going to pick Calvin DeHaan, who's a 30-year-old broken down defenseman? Like, I'm taking Nylander. That's got the most value. So, like, to lose him for nothing when you don't even know what you have because he hasn't played. And yes, it's horrible that he didn't play this year. But, like, at some point, you've got to play him and see what he can do. And you can't just play him with, like, David Kampf on the fourth line or Ryan Carpenter or Adam Gaudette. He needs to play with Kirby Dach. He needs to play with Alex Debrincat, Jonathan Taves, Kubalik, whoever's in your top six. And he needs to play in big minutes because you're not going to know if he's any good unless you give him that opportunity. And like next year, if we get in 10 games and he's struggling and everyone wants to boot him, no, we're not booting him. 10 games is 10 games. Vinny Hinostroza has been playing. He looks like a superstar in these 10 games he's played with the Hawks. He hasn't been one his whole career. He's 28 years old. You can see what 10-game swings do. So they need to give these kids time to develop. And that basically means they're not going to be very good next year, and you should be okay with that. We didn't think they were going to be in this position this year. And you know what? Here's the beauty of it. And me and Joe talked about this. They're bringing in Jonathan Taves. Supposedly, he's going to be back. That's 60 points, 50 to 60 points. That's not on the roster right now. Let's say Alex Nylander turns into a little bit like his brother, but not as good. Say he's a 50-point player. Well, now you just added 100 points to this roster that they didn't have this year. Then you bring in Shalunov. Let's just forget about the other guy. But they have the rights to Shalunov. Let's say they bring him in. Say he scores 30 points in his rookie season, which is about what he does in the KHL. Or Lucas Reichel comes in and lights it up. Henrik Borgstrom. You don't like that's like the Hawks don't need all of these guys to be successful. Just really two of them, assuming you get Taves back. And it's probably a markedly different team if you have that offensive production because This is the thing everybody overlooks. Everyone's been shitting on the defense lately, and everyone's been shitting on Lankinen. They've been playing good teams, and what's been happening? They get killed in puck possession. When you don't have puck possession, you don't have control of the puck, you're chasing the game. Your players get worn out. Your young defensemen, who are all mostly rookies, are getting worn down, and you got a rookie goaltender that's getting magnified this season. The more they play, the more that and less that's going to get magnified. And if your offense can start to carry you more and you can control the puck, it's going to take loads off your defense to where they can think clearer. They're not as worn down and they can be more effective. Everyone's talking about Kevin Lankinen's workload, this last month. That's why he's been struggling. Why is it just Kevin Lankinen's workload? We're talking about we got like 4 rookies on defense. Look at all the rookies in the forwards. None of these guys have they're all making mistakes. They're all worn out. This is to be expected. And nobody again, Joe, we didn't expect them to be here at game 52. That they would still be playing meaningful games at game 52. At the beginning of this season, me and Josh did the preview, and both of us had us fighting with Ottawa and Detroit, I think, to be in at the bottom in the draft lottery. We didn't even have Buffalo where they're at. So I think everybody needs to kind of keep this in perspective. Things could go really bad or they could go really good next year. Personally, I'm kind of rooting for an in-between, that we miss the playoffs, but we get our development. And that's what I think we should focus on. If we get more, awesome. Stan Bowman said Henrik Borgstrom's the best college player he's seen in a decade. I don't think Bowman's the greatest evaluator of talent, but if that becomes true and it translates because he finally gets an opportunity with the Hawks, imagine what that adds to your team with Jonathan Taves. And then if Alex Nylander can finally grow, if Nylander and Doc both grow, they're both on the same trajectory right now. After a full 82 game season, they're basically neck and neck. If both of them go from 33, 32 point a year players to say 45, 50, you just added another 50 points to your roster just in those two. And then you got Taves 50 points. Borgstrom could be 50 points. That's 200 points. We shouldn't be all doom and gloom about whether this team's going to be good or not. There's a lot of wait and see here. But you've got to play them. That's the point that I'm trying to make. You can't keep plugging and plugging. Barstool Chief, I even think I think it was him, or maybe it was somebody else. I saw somebody on Twitter tonight wanted the Hawks to go out and sign Dougie Hamilton. What? Why? It's you're going to get rid of DeHaan and Zadorov and then bring in Dougie Hamilton, who's not a number 1 defender. He's not even a number 2, in my opinion. He's basically a 4. And you're going to go and pay him a shitload of money to come in and block another young defenseman from playing. Huh? Anyway, Joe, do you have any comments on any of this? I know I've been going on a rant here, but
No, it's yeah, like you said, I think we need to play the younger guys and hopefully, like I said, I think we all as Hawk fans, we want to see this team in the playoffs, and I know for me it's so hard just to have to go this long without I mean, I know it's like, we all the diehards, we've been used to it for many years, but then, they got good and then went on that long run where they won, three cups in 6 years. And, I admit it, we got spoiled again. And now it's like we're back, kind of, not to say we're ever going to get to dark ages again, which God, I hope we don't. But you want the team to make strides, you want the team to make progress. And, like I said, some of the moves Stan Bowman has made over the course of, this quote unquote retooling have been questionable to say the least. And I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like how he still has a job is a head scratcher to me, especially with all that's gone on and with the money that's being spent on, players that, either aren't impact players or just hoping to be impact players. I don't know. It's just such a weird and strange predicament to be in at this point after having so many years of success. I mean, I know all good things come to an end, and you got to kind of start from the bottom and work your way back to the top. But I just don't think we ever kind of thought that it would get to like this far down to where you got to really, build yourself all the way back up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree with you on Bowman. I think he has a job because Rocky Wirtz, I think, really likes Scotty, and I think they appreciate that the Bowmans basically are what was around and built this team into what it was coming out of the dark ages. And I think, that's kind of the legacy, and they're trying to give. I don't think Bowman's going anywhere, by the way. I do think Colleton will be gone after next season. I think people wanting Colleton gone this season are going to be disappointed. They just gave him a new contract. He's not going anywhere. But if things don't work out next season, and I'm kind of hoping they don't, uh, just because I really want a good player in that 2022 draft. Call me crazy for that, but that's kind of where I'm thinking. I'm trying to think more long term than short term. Um, we can suffer through another year of bad hockey if it means we get longer term success. I think we'd all trade that. Like if we can get another 6 years of being a contender after next season with Kane and Taves, which would put them at 41, I think would be how old they would be after 6 more years. I think we'd all take it. And I think theoretically, the way they're set up, they could be or should be in that position. Now, again, Colleton's not the guy to get them there unless something hugely drastic happens next season. I don't see. But I don't think Stan Bowman's going anywhere. Not not until uh I think you got to go through one more coach because you have to remember Bowman didn't hire Quenville. Colleton's the first coach Bowman has hired. So, GMs, Ryan Pace, for example, has been on the hot seat. He's on his second coach, right? I believe. And then what happened with their draft? You look at how many managers did Epstein have? Three, four, before he left. Um, and uh, Han now has had what, two or three. So I think my point being is that usually the GM gets at least one do over. And yes, it's weird saying Bowman didn't hire Quenville, but he didn't. So, he's still trying to, I think, mold this team into his vision. And that's why I said all those years ago and continue to say Stan Bowman did not build the Blackhawks dynasty. It was Dale Talon and a lot of luck. A lot of luck. You had Seabrook and Keith. They hit on both of them. where they fell in the draft with Taves and Kane, getting Taves third overall. Um, the Jarmelson pick, I think Jarmelson was a fourth round pick. Um, Crawford turning his career around because he looked like a bust for a long time. It's, Lankinen was not drafted. So it's hard to really compare the two. But Crawford was like about the same age as Lankinen when he came into the league as a full time starter. Like, I think Crawford was drafted in, was it 05 or 04? Like, he had
It was
played.
no, Crawford was 03.
Okay, even back. Crawford was drafted during the dark ages.
Yeah.
So I think him and was Seabrook 03
Yeah, Seabrook was 03.
and Keith was 04 or 02.
He was I think 02.
Okay. So yeah, those three guys were kind of in that original Dark Ages era, and they got lucky that when they let Niemi go, that um, Crawford was able to turn around because he looked like a bust. It's most goalies don't start their careers at like 27, 26. They start later than, forwards and such, but especially back then, it's a very different league now. But they got lucky there, and they got lucky, moving on from Savard for Quenneville. It was the right guy, right time. They got Hossa. I mean, everything, the Patrick Sharp trade, Sharp looked like a bust in Philly, and they got him, and he turned out to be a huge piece. They got Andrew, what? They got Andrew Ladd for Rutu, right?
Yeah.
Like everything they just did hit. Like everything they did hit in that like 4-year period between drafting Kane and Taves and Jarmelson to acquiring Andrew Ladd, Dustin Bufflin. I think he was like a 7th round pick. Like literally, it was just magic what happened then. So, you know, you can't, to me, you can't fault Bowman really that stuff has fallen apart because they were just so good. But also, you can fault him on, bad cap hits, bad trades. They could have extended this, if they kept Panarin. But by the same token, I don't think it's fair to sit and go, oh, he built the teams. He didn't. When, you know, 12 of your 18 skaters were all brought in by the previous regimes, that's not you. Just because you're bringing in, okay, he brought in Antoine Vermette. Cool. He made a deadline trade. Most GMs make that move if they are in that opportunity. Okay, he drafted Brandon Saad. That's a win. Andrew Shaw, cool. But Saad was only around for 2 years, and I don't even remember. I don't think he was that important in the first cup in 2013 that he was a part of. It wasn't until 2015 that he had his huge coming out party. So it's just, and Bowen too. Bowen was in that 4-year period when they drafted him. Was he a '08 pick?
Who
So
was that?
like all in that time frame that they just got hit on everything. So, like nobody does that. The Penguins didn't, the Capitals didn't, the Rangers didn't, the Kings didn't. The Kings are probably the most overrated Stanley Cup champion that should never have been, really, in my opinion. I think both of their championships against New Jersey and New York were, to me, tainted, but that is what it is. I think both those teams should never have made the final, but and by they, I'm talking about New York and New Jersey. But I just it's not easy to build a team up into a winner. Look at Edmonton. They've had the best player in the world for what, 6 years now? And they've won one playoff round? One? And not only that, but they've also got Leon Draisaitl now, who's arguably a top 5 player in the world. Top 10 for sure. They got 2 of the top 10 players in the world, and they're not really considered a cup contender. That's insane. And like Connor McDavid's going to probably put up 100 points this year in 56 games. That's Wayne Gretzky level. So this isn't, easy. But yes, I still think Bowman deserves blame for how we are. Like I said, he spent way too much draft capital on defense over the last 6 years, 5 years. And you have to, and this is why I've like started this podcast, or I wanted to start this, because it's important to talk about these things. Why did Bowman spend all this draft capital on defense? Well, what's been going on social media for the last 6 fucking years? Oh, our defense is terrible. All the beat reporters. Oh, our defense is awful. Oh my God, look at these advanced analytics. They're terrible. Brent Seabrook can't skate anymore. We brought in Brian Campbell for a year. He's terrible. Eric Gustafson can put up 50 points, but he can't stop a puck on defense to save his life. We let TVR go in the expansion draft because reasons. I mean, all of these decisions, right? The media's been pushing this narrative. And sure, was the defense that good? Not really. Average, maybe. But should have been fine. And then now we've got all these picks. We don't have any forward prospects really that are ready to go at least, because we don't know what Reichel's going to do. We don't know who they're going to take this year. But then, as Joe mentioned, Bowman went for it 2 years ago because he wouldn't commit to a rebuild. That's another reason the Hawks are in this position. They went and traded draft capital for Andrew Shaw. Andrew Shaw played what, 40 games over the last 2 seasons for his $4 million cap hit. Robin Leonard, we gave him $5 million, and the best we could do was a second-round pick and some no-name defensive prospect. And then what else? Oh, Calvin DeHaan was injured basically all last year. He's been injured again for parts of this year. And when he has played, he hasn't been very good. That's $4.5 million. Zach Smith. Hello, everyone. I'm Zach Smith. Did you know I'm still on the roster? Remember me? You got me for Artem Anisimov. There's a name we haven't heard in a while. Thankfully, he'll be gone next year. But just think of all that. You've got $4 million in Shaw, $3.5 million in Smith. That's $7.5 million right there. Then you've got $4.5 million to DeHaan. So now you're at $12 million. That's Artemi Panarin plus another prospect. And then we're, paying Saad to go play in Colorado. We're playing Oli Matas to sit in the stands in LA. There was another move. He went and got Oli Mata and that $4 million contract. All these moves because he thought we were going to be a contender still after 2 years of mediocrity. And it's like, as Joe said, how does he still have a job? It's just because of circumstances, really. Rocky Wirtz likes him, and he's associated with the glory days. and he's going to get his chance to get him out of it. So, like I said, I know everybody expects kind of when Colleton goes, Bowman will go. I don't think so. I don't think Bowman's going anywhere. I really don't. I wouldn't be unhappy if he's gone. I'm kind of in a love-hate relationship, honestly, with the whole Bowman idea because in a way, you have to remember, folks, like if you get rid of Bowman, now you're losing all your scouting because most of the scouts that the Hawks have are actually they're friends of the Bowman family, Scotty's old buds, and all his contacts all over the world. Because Scotty Bowman's been around since what, the 80s in hockey? Been around forever. And I mean, how many rings does that guy have? Like 13, 15, something crazy like that?
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Yeah. And you know, that's that like royalty bloodline they've got, and they don't want to get rid of it. So like, I don't think Bowman's going anywhere to get off that topic. They're finished at that topic, but um, I think everybody knows we need a new coach. Everybody knows that. But it's not going to happen until at the earliest next season. They just gave him a contract extension. They would look foolishly stupid to come out and fire him now. And keep in mind, what have we been talking about? Nobody expected them to be here in this position in game 52 and still be in playoff contention. Nobody, not even them. So, really, that's a says something for Colleton. How much we can debate, but he got the team to overperform, at least expectations this season. We'll see what happens next year. But yeah, so now that we got that out of the way, I do want to talk about, because I haven't had Joe on to talk about the fact that we're getting fans back into the buildings for the last two home games. And I don't want to get too political here, but I feel like since we're kind of on Bowman in the front office, and again, if I doubt she's listening, but if she is, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. But I know you just got hired because you're basically a woman, and that's what we do now because woke politics. And like legitimately, she has no business being in this position. Like I'm pretty sure she's like an accountant from a big four accounting firm. So she should not be in this position. She has no experience other than I think she was a billet family for the Chicago Steel or something. But this is an abject failure on her part that number one, at least from where I'm sitting, I'll give Joe a minute here to respond, but from where I'm sitting, the fact that we didn't get fans until the final two games of the season, when we've been in a playoff hunt, basically, you know, up through last week, and every other team in the league has had fans. And we can argue and debate, how much 4,000 people in a building, how much difference that makes. But I guarantee you, I bet it makes some. And based off the piped in crowd noise I heard at the UC, which is terrible, by the way, I imagine it would have had some impact. And, some of the players have commented on it as well. And whatever you think about COVID and that, like, the evidence is not on your side if you don't think that we should have had fans for at least the last month of the season. Everybody else did. There were no spikes in COVID testing in the US at least. And aside from that, let's just say my reverse look at this, and I think Joe actually agrees with me here. If at this point, you shouldn't have done fans at all. The season's over. It makes no sense. You've got, I think Joe tweeted out they're charging like $230 for tickets on StubHub for these two games, like that mean nothing. And I mean, it's just to me is like I've sat at home and watched these commercials that you had to have put probably $1 million in, if not more, in producing and played over and over and over again about, you know, people that we follow on our Twitter account, like NHL Crystal, I think's her name, and another one is Jarvis something. Like these everyday fans on Twitter and taking their tweets where they say they missed the Hawks, and then you went and had the players respond to them, and you created this little cutesy commercial to basically build up to the return of a full building in October. And now you're going to sit here and go, oh, just kidding. We're going to have 4,000 fans for these last two games. Like, what? You're just ruining the impact of having that game, the home opener, whenever it is next season, and having a full building. I hope at least a building that's at least 75% full. If it really should be 100% full, but whatever that number is, a full building, largely that you've been spending all this money and building all this hype and all this stuff up for, just so you can have, like, they even had the, what'd they say, Joe? Like, I don't know if you caught it, but they had like the friends and family the last game that were there, and it was like 200 people, and it's like, why are you doing this? This makes no it's almost insulting.
Yeah, it I just felt like it just didn't make a lot of sense. At this, like we said, at this point in the season, just forget about it. I mean, it's hard enough because and I think I had mentioned it. It's with these employees, having to bring them back to work, and which I'm all for, but to do it for just really what 4 to 6 Bulls games or however many it is, 2 Blackhawks games, is it worth it to even come back for that?
Well, are they even going to be able to get people back? I assume, but I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but I think it's in Florida. McDonald's, because the government is giving everybody so much money to stay home on unemployment, McDonald's people is literally offering people $50 to come in and interview. That's how understaffed people are, even locally here. I don't know about where you're at, Joe, but like the local mom and pop shops, they're understaffed, and some of them are having to close because they don't have servers or they don't have people that can work a cash register because nobody wants to come in and work for their old wages when they're making more money sitting at home.
Right, right.
So like that's the other aspect. Like, are they even gonna have, because they're gonna have to open the concession stands. So like, and once those people come back to work, they're off unemployment. So I the whole thing to me is just ludicrously stupid. Like, as you said, it doesn't make, because you're going to have to pay them to get the arena ready. Then you're going
Right.
to have to pay the. Does Aramark run the concessions there? I don't even know who runs the concessions.
I think it's Wertz's deal.
Oh, okay, that's right. It is. Yeah, the Wirtz Corporation or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but you're gonna have to pay them to serve the food during the games. That's, what do you think it is? 5 hours? They have to get there maybe an hour before the game or the gates open, and then an hour.
Maybe even 2 hours. I mean, I don't know what they have to do to be briefed on, how they have to serve and what they have to do. And, I
Well,
don't know. I'm
well,
not
that's just
sure.
it too. I assume they're gonna have to have protective gear. They're going to have to pay for that. And, again, maybe that's to these people, maybe that's minor money, but like these are all things. And for 2 games, like, I guess the Bulls are getting what, 6?
Yeah, I think 4 to 6. I can't remember.
But to me, it's just like, just you're diminishing what would have happened in October now. Instead of fans coming back, the first time they see fans back in the arena and it being full, now that it's going to look like a Florida Panthers game. You're going to have a scattering of people throughout the building. And I don't even think they're not even going to have people on the hard camera side. I think it's just on the camera side where the benches are.
It'll feel like, yeah, we're back in shit 2004.
Yeah, it'll be like going back to 2001.
So, where the Hawks barely drew 10,000.
Hey, is that Keith Carney down there?
Right.
Holy shit, it's Sergei Zubov. Or oh my god, it's Karpatsev. Don't tell Foley.
The ABC line.
Yeah. I was actually looking up just to see where Arneson, Bell, and Calder ended up the other day. And like, I was just thinking about them and like all those old guys like Steve Passmore and was Sergey Breezin, Alexei Zhamnov. I actually liked him when they got him, but you said you weren't a big fan of him, right? Because
I mean, I was just and I'm biased maybe because I was just such a Roenick fan.
yeah,
I just there was nobody that was gonna, in my eyes, replace Jeremy Roenick. Nobody. So
and JP Dumont for a while, and was it Dumont that had the do you remember like where the fan was like making fun of Dumont or whatever? And
yeah,
then
that was
like,
Sullivan.
huh?
That
Or
was
was, yes,
Sullivan,
Steve
Colorado.
Sullivan. Yes. Getting my guys mixed up. But yeah, Steve Sullivan. Then he ended up in Nashville, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. I think Dumont even did for a year or two, didn't he?
Yeah, I was gonna say Dumont sounds familiar in Nashville. So
Yeah, because I think we sent him to Buffalo, right? And then he ended up in Nashville, I think. But anyway, but yeah, I was looking at Tyler Arneson in Colorado.
feel like it'll be like, this is what the United Center was for a long time.
Yeah, you youngins don't even know. Games weren't on TV. Pat Foley still had black hair.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean Foley's always kind of had that salt and pepper look going, at least.
Right.
I guess it was because he's basically fully gray now, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
I was actually funny. Like I was listening to. It had to be a series from like '08 or something, but Foley was on, and he just sounded so much like younger. I'm like, it doesn't seem possible that was just like 13 years ago or whatever it was, but yeah. So I guess that is what it is. We'll have fans. Hopefully they enjoy them. I know I wouldn't be spending $230 a ticket. And where was that in the arena, Joe? Do you know? Was that like on the glass or like in the first row? Oh, looks like I lost Joe. Um, all right. Anyway, yeah, I'll try to just go ahead and wrap this up on that note. It's getting pretty late here, and I lost Joe. It looks like, and yeah, tough night. Obviously, the Hawks officially eliminated from the playoffs. Um, but look, I don't think we need. I don't want us to be dire. I guess that's the point of all of this. The discussions that we've had tonight. I don't want to be dire. They have a lot of players. Bright futures ahead of them. Um, they should get a very good player, hopefully, in this year's draft. Looks like they're going to be picking around 12th, maybe as high as 11th, depending on how the standings shake out. And then, of course, maybe they get really lucky and they win the draft lottery. We don't know. But it's looking like they're going to have the 12th pick. And yeah, we will just have to see what happens. We'll be back with the next game here coming up for you guys. And again, thank you all that have come in here, shown us support, and been listening with us throughout the whole year. It's been quite an experience doing the whole season. This is the first time I've done this. I've done several podcasts before, but never like this. And we're looking to continue to grow and build upon the future. So hopefully you'll stick with us. And yeah, until next time, everybody, um, stay safe. Check in on your friends and loved ones, and we'll see you soon with a review of the next game, Game 53 against the Carolina Hurricanes. And until then, let's go Hawks.